Changes in music styles and new competition was hitting Marshall's bottom line hard.
In 1981, we were down to 17 people on the clock.
For the first time in its history, Marshall's very existence was under threat, and Jim was faced with a stark choice. Should they now shift manufacturing to transistor amplifiers and try to compete with the cheaper new amplifier brands? But this would mean abandoning the valve, the very symbol and heart of everything Marshall stood for.
I think there will always be guitarists that will want to play valve amplifiers, whether because they think it sounds better or because there's a certain nostalgia.
But times were changing. Did the new generation of young musicians now view the Marshall valve amplifier as a decadent relic of times gone by?
A valve amp is very special in the way that it produces musical harmonics. Transistors just don't have that valve magic.
They take a signal, add a bunch of noise, distort the crap out of it. What goes in isn't what comes out, bigger. It completely mashes it, but in a glorious musical way that has a third dimension.
It rounds off the edge. It sounds peculiar, but you get a cleaner distortion. You get less harshness than you would out of a digital amp.
Jim had made his decision. He knew the Marshall was much more than an amplifier. From such humble beginnings, it had risen to the top, helped create legends, powered monster gigs, and was the very symbol of rock. And the one thing that drove it all was its beating heart, the valve.
Mozart, the great composers, use symphonies to get across their thoughts and ideas. If they had a Marshall amp, you don't think Beethoven would have been plugging in and blasting away? Or Mozart? Of course they would have done.
Marshall needed a new flagship amplifier, one that would offer technical advantages and drive the new generation of rock.
I should be pretty sure that in Jim's mind at that time, that even though things were tight, he knew what he had to do. He was much of a businessman to understand the process and the procedure that he had to go through to make sure the company would survive and would be there when things turned around, which things always do turn around, and to come back a stronger and better company.
The Marshall design team created the JCM 800, which retained the valve technology so crucial to the Marshall sound. But the JCM 800 brought some new innovation: the ability to be patched internally and linked with other amplifiers. Later versions featured 2 channels, effects loop and reverb. At its launch, the entire future of the company rested on its success. And the timing was perfect. Marshall's restrictive export distribution contract had just ended, so Jim was now free to offer Marshalls with a very competitive price tag. The JCM 800 immediately got attention, and the emergence of big hair, heavy rock and metal bands wanting to fill the stage with amplifier energy, the JCM 800 was the perfect tool for the job.
If you went to a show and you saw a wall of Marshalls, you knew exactly what to expect.
The stack was back as the ultimate symbol of rock power.
Sold out gigs, wall of Marshalls, wailing guitar, singing crowd, all in uniform. Fantastic. It was the best feeling in the world.
No, I just turned it up, and hit the thing very hard. That's the secret.
There was no limit to the rock band performance.
The shows got ridiculously big because the money was there, and if you've got a 20,000 capacity arena, it's a little different to having a 20 capacity pub. You have to project and have something that people can latch onto. So they did become so over the top and so ridiculous, and also gave the opportunity to the lampoonists to come along and say, we have an idea, we can actually deride all those bands who do huge stage sets.
In 1984, Marshall got a massive publicity shot in the arm with the release of the blockbuster satirical comedy film This is Spinal Tap, featuring the antics of a fictitious rock band on a world tour.
The film Spinal Tap probably had a lot to do with the resurgence of the use of Marshall.
I think everybody likes to think it's about them. Everybody claims that, but Harry Shearer actually came on tour with us, did the research and put things from us in.
In a memorable scene, a Marshall amplifier is customized with an extra volume setting of 11.
Close to 11. And it made me laugh so much that they actually, they built me one.
If you talk to people about Spinal Tap and Nigel Tufnell and Goes to 11, they associate all of that still with Marshall.
It might go up to number 11, but it also works very well at number 1 or number 2. You know, I think that's what's important.
I've got a JCM 800 and I only ever have it on a 2.5. That's as high as I dare take it because it's such a beast. It's been on 10 in the studio, but it's such an animal you can't, you know, you have to run for the hills.
In the next episode, Marshall hits the USA.